after the meeting, I have a question about community picnic.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for July 28th, 2020 to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with the roll call of commission members.
Hale.
Present.
Fink. Noyes.
Present.
Cornwell.
Present.
Zibble-Wolf.
Present.
Duzick.
Present.
Okay, next on the agenda are the ceremonies, announcements, appointments, and presentations. We had a few announcements. One, we have the Parks and Rec Summer Concert Series is still going on. Social distancing is in effect, and mask must be worn when people enter and exit the venue. But it's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. At the City Hall Plaza. All of the concerts are free, and you might want to pre-register to ensure a spot. Tomorrow is 3D Band. On August 5th is Kathy Colton and the Reluctants, and on August 12th is Kevin Shea and Y2K. So we encourage everyone to come out, stay socially distant from people, and enjoy the free music. In addition, we also have our summer movies in the park. The last movie of the summer is Frozen 2, and that is next Friday, August 7th in Crown Point Park. Again, you just have to wear a mask upon entering and exiting. There is social distancing in effect, and the movies are free. And you might want to pre-register to ensure your spot for those for that event as well. And next on our agenda are any amendments. Don't think we have any. And declaration of conflict. Nope. So the consent calendar, which would be the minutes from June 23rd. Do we have a motion or?
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Noyes.
Aye.
Cornwell.
Aye.
Duzick.
Aye.
Zibble-Wolf.
Aye.
Hale.
Aye. Okay, and the main part of our night is our old business. We have a few action items. First is Tulamor Sports Complex, the master plan adoption. We've been talking about this for a while.
Good evening, members of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner, and I am pleased to introduce Mike Terrell with Michael Terrell Landscape Architecture, and they are the prime consultants who the city has contracted with for the development of the Tulamore Sports Complex Master Plan. And so this evening we are here to present the master plan, which will include kind of a summary of the process we've gone through with public outreach, some of the studies we've taken. We'll present the concept itself and then end on some of the cost impacts, possible phasing, and looking at some of the expenditures versus revenues. And so tonight we're looking for your adoption of the master plan and your recommendation to move forward with city council adoption. And so with that, I will turn it over to Michael Terrell.
Thanks, Robbie. It gives me great pleasure to be here tonight to present the Tulamore Sports Complex Master Plan. It's been a great process going forward, working with staff and the community and the design team Design team includes my office, TO engineers based out of Coeur d'Alene, H2A architects out of Coeur d'Alene as well, and KWR electrical engineers, and they're based out of Spokane. And then also we had All West do geotechnical engineering and Sunburst traffic engineering as well. So how does it go to the next one? I guess scroll. So really quickly, I'll go through an introduction. Robbie's covered a lot of that. The project scope, give you the range of what we did in the project, and then talk about the process to date. Go through the most recent public survey and the results we got from that. Talk about the master plan in specific and go through the details of it. And then, as Robbie noted, we'll talk about the cost and also the cost recovery. So we'll save that to the end unless you've already skipped forward. The project site is 25.9 acres. It's a former gravel pit. So there's some challenges there, and I'll get to that in a little bit more detail. Frontage improvements are going to be required by the city on Prairie Avenue and on Cecil to the west. The scope that we've gone forward with is 5 youth baseball fields, 4 soccer fields, parking to serve those, playgrounds, amenities, concession stands, restrooms, and in future phases, most likely a skate dot, which is a smaller skate park, and some basketball courts as well. So the process to date included a community survey early on, which I reported to you at the last time I presented, gave you a rundown of what was in that. We held stakeholder interviews both with baseball coaches locally and then an event coordinator for baseball tournaments. We had an open house. We planned on other open houses and more outreach, but unfortunately we were unable to do that. So what we did is we rolled into a second community survey with the preferred master plan that we worked out based on the comments we got back from the first community survey and working with staff. And then during that time, we did a geotechnical investigation of the site and found some challenges on site. And again, I'll get to that, and did a traffic impact study. So we had real understanding of what the costs for developing this site would be. And then finally, that community survey, March 16th through the 31st, which we got 255 responses. The geotechnical report, what we did is we focused 6 borings on site to where we thought we were going to have potentially some buildings, and then there were potentially some issues. So we know that this is a former gravel pit, and there's been a lot of fill over time. So as it happened, every time we punched a hole down, we found something new. We found topsoil that had been buried. We found chunks of concrete that had been buried up to 30 feet deep. And so this is not a surprise, but we wanted to really get a detail on what it was that we're dealing with, so that when we're estimating construction costs, we have a good idea, so we don't really have surprises. So as you get down the road in developing the project, there are no surprises like, oh, we didn't know this was here. And so as the project goes forward, additional geotechnical investigation will be very specific for various locations. The report also includes various mitigation depending on what you build there, but for the most part, the site is going to be fields which don't need a lot of mitigation. So only in those concentrated places where we're building buildings or other structures are we going to have to do a little bit of some mitigation. The traffic impact study, again, what we wanted to do is identify whether there were any challenges that we're going to have to roll into the cost estimate that we didn't already know about. And so the traffic engineer spoke with staff and also did some traffic counts. Again, a challenging time to do traffic counts. When we started the traffic study, or started at least to get the traffic engineer going, traffic counts were very, very low in the neighborhood. Because everybody was staying home. And so we held them off until traffic counts came up again, and so we can get some really good idea what the traffic counts were, and then put the traffic impact study together And basically, it reinforced what we already knew in talking with engineering staff, is that we'd have to do half street improvements for Cecil on the west, the improvements to Prairie on the north, and turn lanes on both of those as well. So going to the survey, I'll go kind of quickly what we heard about the survey. And so we had a few questions, and one was, what do you think about the preferred master plan? But the first one was, who do you represent? Why is this complex important to you? Out of the respondents, 53% were involved in youth baseball, 44% in youth soccer, other 36%, a whole range of different folks, and then girls softball 25%, youth flag football 20%. So these are a whole range of people that we're geared towards. So we're looking for their input, and so we found it. Which sports? The second question, which sports should be accommodated at the new complex? And so, again, the master plan is geared with 5 baseball fields shown, and so 75% of respondents said youth baseball. Youth soccer, 65%. So we're showing 4 soccer fields that are 80 by 330 on the 180 by 330 on the master plan as well, and then girls softball at 58%. And so the baseball, just to kind of preface the baseball fields, they're baseball softball fields. So we're designing it so that the size of the fields can be used both for baseball and softball. So we're trying to maximize the types of uses that can happen as well. And so youth flag football, again, 46%, youth tackle football, 38%, adult soccer, 31%, and adult flag touch football, 26%, then lacrosse and rugby, 28, 19%. So we got a wide range of people that thought these are the uses that should happen at this complex. So one of the questions we felt that was really important to identify in terms of helping the city prioritize what was important to build first or to spend money on is what are the number one and in succession other amenities that you think are important. Number one came across as grass multi-use fields. So you have a baseball complex, but these grass multi-use fields are super important. Neighborhood playground, 8%. Again, they were scattered, so small percentages because they were scattered a lot of different inputs. Ball field lighting at 7% for the baseball softball fields. Shelters at 7%, and the event plaza at 7%. And so what I tried to do is, at least with these quotes, and you can, as an appendice to the whole master plan, is all of the quotes that we got, all the comments we got from everybody that responded. So I picked a short list of comments on considering the layout and design of the final master plan concept. What do you prefer or dislike, and why? The first comment I put is, I like the whole design. However, the second one, I dislike the entire plan. So you can see what the range of comments we got. People were not afraid to tell us exactly what they think. So some of the comments related to how close this complex would be to existing residential and the relationships as well. And so that's a concern. I like the 5 ball fields and 4 soccer fields. I like that the event plaza is also for food trucks. We don't see many in Post Falls. And then we get comments about you should build a pool, which I'm sure you guys hear all the time. All the other things that you've heard during your master planning for your parks and recreation master plan process came through in this as well. One of the comments was, and we wrestled with this in the design, the last one down there is there's no full-size baseball field. And so we wrestled with what this complex should be, and we came down, as we worked with staff, came down to 5 youth baseball softball fields. So the word cloud basically graphically represents how many times people mention this word. And so parking is number 1. which you hear in all sorts of different things. And then fields and courts, soccer, and you can see a pool shows up there as well in pretty big words as well. So again, in the Appendix C in the master plan, all of the different comments are represented there. Every single one is included. So I'm going to see if I can do. Which button is the pointer? Don't know. Try that.
The mouse will show up to the public on TV.
Okay. So starting up at the top, this is Prairie Avenue, Cecil, Charleville, and Killdeer on the south. So the main part of the baseball softball complex is up here in the northwest. Multi-use fields, illustrated with 4 soccer fields, is down here in the south and the southeast. 2 parking lots, one entering off of Charleville on the east, and then another parking lot entering off in the southwest to try and distribute parking and make access available for everybody. Within the complex, these are the 5 baseball fields. This is an all-inclusive field that can also be utilized for practice or for warm-ups for the baseball field, so it gives that additional space for tournament warm-ups. Concession, restroom, tournament coordination building in the middle. All the fields have dugouts, pitching warm-up bullpens. There are batting cages located here, 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 and here. And the maintenance yard is located on this side. It's tucked in along the side of Cecil. And with the maintenance buildings, it's room enough to store equipment and store materials for the fields as well, and would be accessed from this parking lot. We have located a spot for a commercial batting cage, so that could be used year-round. Shelter, restroom, and potential with a space for potential tournament management as well to serve the soccer fields. Playground out here outside the complex. Within the complex is a tot lot with screens and shade and netting to protect them from foul balls. And then the event plaza, which the main feeds in from the main parking lot where you can have events, food court, food truck setup and things like that. And then over here on the side, a skate dot and 3 basketball courts. So one of the things, just to get everybody kind of oriented to the topography, this portion of the site is in a hole. So it's about 40 feet below Prairie in this location. So there is a slope all the way around to this side and then on this side as well, and that's the way it exists right now. And so one of the things, there's some advantages to that. One is that we have a backdrop to all the fields that foul balls or home runs are landing on the slope. But it does create a challenge because it makes it so entrance from Cecil or from Prairie is virtually impossible to get down into the site. These are this side along Killdeer and along Charleville are basically at grade where you can easily get into the site without spending a lot of money. Gives you an idea what again, Prairie on the north, fitting into this slope on the north and the west, and the fields across the south with the existing residential neighborhood, looking out onto the fields, and then the apartment complex here also looking out on the fields with the main portion of the activity, at least for the baseball and softball fields, up here in the northwest corner. So a little bit more detail. The way we've estimated, the way we've designed the master plan right now is the 5 baseball, softball fields all have synthetic turf infields. So we've estimated it that way. One of the things that does is it extends the season both on the front end in the spring and the back end in the fall. makes it so that you can have practices earlier in the year, and also reduces the maintenance turnaround time between tournament games. So if you have, for instance, if you have a late afternoon thunder shower or something, it's easy to get right back on and play on it without having to prep the infield. So that's one of the things that we did. We also, each of the 5 fields are 225 feet to the outfield. They're set up to have 60-foot and 70-foot bases, so we have that flexibility for different age groups. And then again, the ADA inclusive field in the center, we're showing net backstops so that the visitor and the fan experience is not looking through a chain link fence like you have in a lot of situations. The net is a lot easier to see through. Restroom concession stand, I'll show you the details on that. We're really excited about how the architecture and the character of the complex are coming together. Again, batting cages and bullpens, which I mentioned before. So again, the batting cages and bullpens. So you really have this full tournament experience. You can go there, you can practice, you can warm up, you can have that tournament experience and stay put for the tournament. So this is what would potentially be the corner of Cecil and Prairie on the northwest with a sign. You can see the flag in the background. It's sitting below, so everything drops off down into the complex. This would be the main entrance into the complex, and then you come through here and turn into the main entry. This is the concession restroom stand, well, the restroom management stand on the soccer fields. The soccer fields are here on the left. This would be the main formal entrance into the complex. So you'd have an opportunity to really make a statement of the entrance into the softball, baseball component of the complex. Gives you an opportunity for naming rights, for advertising and things like that. But also gives the fans and the players this experience. I'm going to someplace special. I'm entering a complex that is built for us. The restroom concession stand is the centerpiece. It's got a shade shelter structure on one side. It's got a fully developed concession stand, not to make food from scratch, but also to support folks staying there and operating there. And the way I'll get into detail, the restrooms are set up with flexibility so that through maintenance and operations, it can really be maintained in an efficient manner. And then we've included, as we've designed it, we've included concrete bleacher seating to make it kind of permanent seating, to make it feel like you've gone to a full-size park, again with the net backstops. And then the soccer fields. So the way this is, the great thing about the way this is turning out, this is the great portion of the site. The challenging portion of the site is under the baseball field. We've been able to conceptually grade this so this is all one big, relatively flat field. So it doesn't have to, the way they're laid out doesn't have to be the way they're laid out. It could be that they could be rotated 90 degrees. You could have different fields. You could have a lot more fields for younger players as well. You could change it for either lacrosse or for football. So there's a lot of flexibility in this big open grass field on the south and southeast side of the site. Again, too, this parking lot has 100 spaces with access to the maintenance facility. Our fire access runs like this, so the fire trucks can get to the center of the complex and get to the concession stand. And then this lot has 128 spaces. That gives you a look at what this is the lot in the southeast corner. So we've minimized the amount of parking lot frontage on Killdeer with all the cars parked so that they're not looking into the neighborhood. So really the neighborhood is maximizing their views looking out into the green fields of the soccer and the soccer multi-use fields. So maintenance building in the yard, again, batting cages for rent, basketball courts, skate dot, giving that opportunity for not only to be a tournament complex for things happening in practice, but also as an asset to the neighborhood as well. This is where kids can walk and bike to this complex and use these facilities when they're not being used for tournaments or for practice. So really quickly going into the building, we worked really hard with staff to come up with a configuration, the concession stand, and an architectural character that we think fits with the style of the architecture of the historic architecture of the farm buildings on the prairie, and also kind of the industrial feel of what the quarry was. So we're trying to pull all those together so to have durable, timeless, and simple buildings that really create a character. And so that's why kind of the shed roof comes out over the top. We have shade in here with picnic benches available. The concession stand runs across the full front of it, so it is, and then we have 2 unisex restrooms. That these restrooms could be open when there's lower use of the facility, and these 2 men's and women's restrooms could be closed. So you don't have to have all of your restrooms open all of the time and have to be cleaning them. And then created an office so that you can, as you attract tournaments or tournament management from other people maybe outside the city, or even the city operating a tournament, there's an office for the tournament management to set up. So they keep track of the scheduling, they keep track of the changes and registration, and so that gives them a place to set up. And then the important things like janitorial and mechanical storage as well. The restroom facility out by the soccer fields, again, we have a small office so that tournament management could occur in there, so you could set up, because sometimes soccer is operating when it's rainy and miserable, gives tournament management a place to set up. We have a shelter on the side that's facing to the east so that there's some shade and maybe some rain shelter as well. And then again, we've set it up with a couple of unisex restrooms and full men's and women's restrooms, that these could be closed off normally except when there's tournaments, and then these are open so that they could be used, again, minimizing that maintenance, that ongoing day-to-day maintenance. We have a concept also for the maintenance building, which would serve not only this complex, but it's envisioned to serve the kind of the northeast component, part of the city as well. So there's a lot of maintenance equipment that would be located here, so reduce the drive times. And it would be a year-round facility, so that there would be one maintenance bay that would be conditioned and heated so that work on equipment could occur during the winter, and then some unheated areas. And then kind of management, office space, some locker rooms and a restroom, and then also storage for various, provide storage for a lot of different things that are needed in this facility. So that brings us to the overall estimate. And so it's very similar to what I shared with you the last time I presented. I know everybody's going down to the bottom line already. So everything that we've talked about today is included in the estimate. There's a few things that I want to point out that are really big components of the complex. One is the frontage improvements on Cecil and Prairie. So if you were building a complex where the streets are already done, you wouldn't have an expenditure of about $1 million to improve those streets. So that's one of the challenges, budget challenges as well. One of the other challenges is, in order to get water service for this site, because it's not on City of Post Falls water, the connection fee is going to be about $256,000. So that's another big component of the budget that we had to work in there as well. One of the things that we think is important, but we didn't include in the budget, just as it stands right now, is lighting for all 5 fields. And so if we were to add lighting to all 5 fields, it'd be $565,000, which is shown right here. So the bottom line is, including and we have a 20% contingency, because keep in mind, this is a master plan estimate. This isn't a construction drawing estimate. We haven't detailed everything out. We have $14,413,940,000. So, and that includes all the offsite. That's everything. That's the A&E costs. That's the offsite improvements. That's everything. So one of the things we work with staff on, knowing that that's a really big number, is what could a phase one look like, and taking a first step and first look at what a phase one could look like. One of the things we said is, what's the important thing to make it so you have a tournament complex? What do we need to have a tournament complex and make it feel like we're really making progress? And we determined that we needed three baseball fields, parking for the fields, and the concession restroom stand in the middle of the complex. And it also includes all the frontage improvements on Cecil and on Prairie, and then also grading the whole site. So for efficiency's sake, to get the whole site prepared to take the next step in the future, we wanted to get all that grading done at the same time. It makes it a lot more efficient than trying to grade pieces at a time. And then electrical service with conduit extending out, but no wire for future field lighting as well. So again, with all the offsite improvements, 20% contingency, that first phase is about $7.3 million. And this is what the first phase would look like. So we'd have a full parking lot completed on this side. We'd have the frontage improvements for Cecil and Prairie on the north. These three fields, so you would access and be able to use these three fields and the restroom concession stand. So you'd have a three-field complex that could really get things started. We talked a lot about how the phasing could go and how you access other portions of the site, and we felt like this was the best way to get three fields, get that first phase constructed, so that in the future, you could see what the opportunities are for the north, and also preserve some opportunity to look, maybe if things change in the future, it preserves some opportunity to look at other options as well. So one of the last components that we looked at in the master plan is what cost recovery could be. And so cost recovery is all about how much it takes to maintain the full complex. And so this cost recovery discussion is all about maintaining and operating a full complex. So it's all 5 fields, 4 soccer fields, all the parking, everything all together. And so it's the maintenance operations against what revenues that we project could be gained by operating the complex. So the assumptions are you're utilizing the complex, the 5 fields, the soccer fields, as well as we think they can be right now at this point in time. It's a little hard to estimate what the demand could be in the future. We know that houses are being built every day, more people are moving to the community, but we're trying to take a conservative approach to what the opportunities are for revenue growth in this. So we looked at the revenue, and we came up with baseball being able to get about $47,000 a year over, and we've got about a 7-month season. There's a lot more detail that goes into this. And then we looked at softball at that should be soccer instead of softball, at $108,000 is the next one. So one of the things about soccer is that the reason it's higher is that there's more opportunity for revenue growth on the outsides of the season. There's a lot more flexibility. You can put a lot more kids on the field, so there's a lot more opportunity there. And then tournaments and camps, again, we can, in the master plan, we can get down to the details on how many camps and everything, but about $177,000 opportunity for revenue in running tournaments and camps. And then sponsorships and naming, we feel like $25,000 is a pretty conservative opportunity for sponsorships, naming, and advertising. All depends on the city's approach to that. one of the things that I shared with staff early on is the skate ribbon in downtown Spokane and Riverfront Park. They signed a contract for $90,000 a year for naming. That was before COVID, but that's a lot of money for a skate ribbon. And they're not getting nearly as many people onto the ice skating ribbon as you would get in this complex. So there's an opportunity to have that discussion about what the appropriate level of naming and sponsorship and exposure is for that. So the potential revenue is about $357,000 a year. We went through with staff, looked at the operations and maintenance a lot of different ways, and ran the spreadsheets and came up with staff feels that $424,000 a year is about what it would take to operate the full complex. And so with that, comparing, taking the revenue against the expenses, comes with a deficit of about $66,000 a year, or a cost recovery of about 84%. So one of the things I did is I looked at other complexes similar, and the average on other complexes, and this is in a lot of other communities where maintenance expenses may be a lot higher, water use might be a lot higher, is the recovery is about 60 to 70%. So going back to this, we feel like we sat down with staff and went through the revenues several times and compared that and came up with what we think is a conservative approach to revenue. We also looked in great detail what the operational costs would be as well. It includes light and sewer and toilet paper and everything else. And we feel like we've come up with a cost recovery model that is representative, at least as we stand right now, what we think can be anticipated. So the next steps, as Robbie noted, City Council presentation for adoption based on how we do tonight. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm open for answering any questions that you might have.
Question, of course.
Go for it.
Thanks, Jim. Couple of questions on the fields. That would be about what age of baseball are those 70-foot bases good for? That's about 12 or 13 years old, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and then also high school girls softball would be able to utilize those fields as well, is that right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yep.
The other question I had is how big is that skate dot? It's difficult to say, so about 2 basketball
It's
fields
about
wide.
2 basketball courts.
There you go, okay. Because we get so many requests for pools, could that be made into a splash pad? Is that something that is there enough area there and all the plumbing and such, if that was something that we wanted to change down the road?
Any spot on the site that could be flexible for something else, that's it.
That's it, okay.
So different components could be plugged and played into there, like a splash pad or something else.
Okay.
When you talk about a pool, it would be much more difficult.
Yeah, no, splash pad is what I was thinking, but, and then I have a question for Dave on this. So I know we need an action plan tonight, and by accepting this master plan for Tulamore, are we locked into, for example, I don't like the ideas of the nets around the softball and baseball fields. Are we locked into that? Is that something that we can change? So we're just talking about basically the plan.
The overall general
Yeah,
concept.
okay.
We're not even locked into the revenue and expenditures there.
Right.
That's that full build out.
Okay.
Once again, things change,
Right.
technology changes.
Okay.
Maybe we will really get that Roomba mower that can do the work and not be stolen. There's a lot of things there. They have things
Okay.
that are doing the fields now for painting, but it's the concept. Even, we broke it down to the 3 fields
Oh,
to
sure.
start. But ultimately, when we get ready to do the next phase, we'll look at that, and it may be, we have 2 up there, but maybe at that time, things have changed. We need to just go with one that's bigger. Even if you look to the east, going out that way, that's a lot of open land that's controlled by Ross Point Water. Once again, those are things we can look at as how that works.
Okay.
So
Okay, so it's basically just conceptualized, is what you...
conceptualized,
yes,
but we
yeah,
do
okay.
know that there's certain things like the entrances for parking. Those are things we're going to have to get down pretty tight because of the soils. And then, obviously, we're addressing the roads.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably go for another grant again on that.
Okay, because there's a few things that I don't agree with, but I think that you're looking for the master plan and
Yeah.
the conception of this.
General layout.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I told you net backstops, concrete steps, that's how we estimated it.
Sure.
For the master plan. And so as the future goes into doing the detail work on the design, those are all up for, do we do chain link? Do we do something different? So those are all up for discussion, certainly with staff and others as well.
The one other thing that will happen as we move to each phase, because obviously first phase, construction documents, things get tightened down, but we have to look at the budget. We may have to make some changes that are based purely on the economics. And I know in there's the naming rights. As a group, we may decide that we don't want to have naming rights going into ongoing operational costs, but we need it for that construction cost. So you may see that the first 10 years, there's not that money coming in because we went ahead and got it up front so we could build something. So, but those are details that we'll work through.
Dave, on the time frame, if we were to adopt this, city council moves forward with it, just say we went through phase one as you guys were thinking about, what's the time frame on that? I mean, we're still talking.
As staff is finding out, I don't have this money tree. It's been a great rumor, but it's not there. We've talked with Mike. Really what we're looking at is probably next year we would do some of the design work. One of the things we really want to do is get that, help me, Robbie, on the terminology, the site. The mass grading. One of the agreements we had in place with Copper Basin is they would do all the rough grading. So once we have that staked out, they'll come in, they'll do screening, they'll clean up some of the spots. It doesn't address where we have to put in structural soils, but it gets us down, and that's a big savings. And we're addressing the deal. Then I would look at towards the end of 2021 that we start the design work on it. Somewhere in that point, we're going to be going after different grants, and then construction would be probably realistically about 23.
There's a grant cycle coming up, is there not?
There is. I don't know off the top of my head if this is the state one or the federal one, but I was also told earlier this year that the state was looking at going away from every other and just going to every year. But the cycle is we have to have everything in by November. We start working on it. We do our presentations to them in January, and or if you're successful with the Land and Water, you move forward to a March presentation, which may be by Zoom now, and that would be a lot easier. But it's a longer cycle. But this is also very complex. Everything we're doing is complex now, so. Now, if somebody's listening that has lots of money and loves.
I got a question. I got a couple questions. On Cecil, is there going to be on-street parking?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Well, actually, I guess, has engineering said that yet or not?
Yeah, on-street
Okay.
on the complex side, no on-street parking on the west side of Cecil.
Okay.
Okay. And then for that parking lot, the biggest complaint that I've heard is the pushing people on Killdeer through that neighborhood.
Right.
Is it next to impossible to put the entrance on that parking lot on Cecil?
It's not next to impossible, but the grades make it really, really difficult.
The costs skyrocket.
Yeah. It makes it hard to get down from Cecil down into the parking lot without pushing the parking lot and losing maybe some soccer field.
Okay.
Does Charleville go all the way through to Prairie?
Yes.
Oh, it does, okay.
And we're not in control of the level or height of the roadway. That's, actually, the roadway, half plus 10 feet will be in, we expect, next year, long before we get to our portion of it. So that will determine really where we have to work off of.
Other questions for Mike or for Dave?
Nope.
Or Robbie, don't forget him.
Robbie?
This has been his baby.
I
I
can
mean,
make
I don't want to,
I'd be happy to make a motion.
okay.
If that's where we're
I
ready
don't want to
for it.
rush people, but I know how I feel and I'm ready to move
Yeah.
forward, so.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept this conceptual master plan for the Tulamore Sports Complex as presented tonight.
I'll second that.
Noyes,
Aye.
Cornwell,
Aye.
Duzick,
Aye.
Zibble-Wolf,
Aye.
Hale.
Aye.
So thank you. I recognize that there are things that still will be tweaked and we need to adjust. I understand the
Long process.
Yeah, I understand the concern on the parking on that. Part of it too is we have to work within the engineering requirements for ingress and egress. I'm learning more about that. But we also can work on screening, just like we have in some other places, to reduce some of that impact. That's why that went along with that road, and so we'll get through it.
Okay, another action item under old business is Parks and Rec Master Plan, and Brian will talk about that.
I have a couple times.
So for us, this is kind of unique. We're doing a Zoom meeting in addition to this, so.
No?
We're attempting to do a Zoom meeting in addition to this, so.
I did have one more question while we're waiting.
Yes.
For that synthetic turf, for the baseball fields, if that was to be, I don't know, just say vandalized, is that easy to clean off? Where like grass can grow out?
Yeah, it depends on the type of vandalism. Let's say somebody decides a bonfire. That's a little harder.
That's
What they
hard to
do is
do,
they
I
end up
bet.
you dig it out, you cut it out, it's a carpet.
Hmm.
It's glued back in and then pushed back into place. That's the worst case.
But like
Again,
paint or something that comes off, or
Pardon?
paint, if someone was to paint it?
It can be cleaned off, but some of the cleaning, depending on what's used, is a plastic. So once again, it's bad enough, you cut it out and you put it in. You know, we're weighing the cost of the,
Maintenance
water.
fees.
It's
and
one of the
stuff.
most
Oh.
expensive. We're also looking at putting in our own well. Will that reduce the cost and save money? So where's our rate of return is really the question on all of this. Sorry, Art.
Fine with me.
Well, good evening, Commission. Brian Myers, Parks Manager. As you know, we've been working on our updating of our Park and Rec Master Plan now since January 15th, 2019 is when we brought it to City Council for an RFQ to publish that and request for consultants to provide proposals. We hired Greenplay, and Art Thatcher is the principal working on that process in May. And since that time, we've been working with the public, steering committee, and yourselves to develop this draft document that's before you tonight. So with that, turn the floor over to Art Thatcher, our principal that's been working on this, and he'll go through the highlights. A lot of this is going to be familiar to you all, since we did discuss this at the last workshop. Since that time, we've revised a little bit based on feedback that we did receive and staff feedback on the previous draft. And this is kind of the next step and hopefully close to the finish line at this point. So So with that, Art.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present this again to you. As Brian said, really the majority of this presentation, a lot of it you have seen. There have been some tweaks to the goals and to the objectives, and then some additional tweaks to the action items in the master plan. Brian and David asked me to do this presentation since it would be televised to the public, so that they would be able to see the information that you had previously seen a month ago. And so, if there are any questions, I'll go ahead and jump into. I've shared my screen. Brian, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, as we know, the master plan is really kind of all built around the mission of the department. It's to provide exceptional park services, facilities, recreational opportunities to our customers and the citizens of Post Falls. And so as we look at that, one of the things out of the RFP was that this master plan become a really a blueprint for the future. This is an update to the existing master plan. And so helps to provide quality recreation services, parks, green spaces, facilities, and programs throughout the city for the next 10 years. So our process, we reviewed and did an assessment of your existing plans and the conditions of your facilities and your assets. We did an extensive community stakeholder engagement, did a community survey and a statistically valid survey. Thankfully, those were able to be completed prior to COVID hitting, and so we were able to really engage the community. Staff, Parks and Recreation Commission engagement. We did a comprehensive facility inventory and level of service analysis using our GRASP methodology, as well as using the local landscape design firm, BWA, and did a trends and demographics analysis, looked at your operations and maintenance, again, did the comprehensive community needs assessment, identified those key challenges and opportunities, and then developed a set of recommendations, goals, objectives, and an action plan. Worked very closely with staff in honing those. And so really kind of looked at kind of the framework of the community, looked at your population, the number of square miles, your playgrounds, your operating budget, and those things. So as I mentioned, we did public input. We did did a mixed method approach to our public input. We did focus group stakeholder meetings. We did some pop-ups. We did some community engagement pieces, and then did several public presentations. The focus groups we held in June, and we asked a series of questions, really doing a SWOT analysis. And one of the things that we got out of that was looking at those focus group priorities. And these are not in any, priority order. So really connecting the community to parks, maintaining what you currently have. I'm not going to read every one of these. Expanding your river access, focusing on the downtown, finding that balance between your natural areas and the developed amenities, growing your programs, providing new amenities, dog parks, splash pads, destination playgrounds, developing a sports complex, and creating community gathering spaces, and then finding a dedicated funding source to support your operations and your growth. We use the data and the information that we got from the focus groups to build a customized survey to the community. And so we mailed out 4,500 surveys, random sample to the community. We got back 566 of those invitation surveys. And then we got another 185 on an open link. So anybody in the community could participate in that survey. So really, we were looking for a 10% return, got greater than a 10% return. So a 4.1% margin of error in the results. And so we asked a series of questions. One was around kind of the the vision and the purpose of the department. So how important were each of the following purposes for Parks and Recreation? Really, you can see on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being very important and 1 being not at all important. You can see that providing clean, well-maintained parks and facilities, promoting healthy, active lifestyles, and connecting people with nature were really those top 3, all in that important to very important range, both for the invitation as well as the open link. We also asked about importance of facilities to the community and to the household. And you can see that, community and neighborhood parks, trails and pathways, open space and natural areas all ranked kind of in the top there at, again, that between important and very important, with water access kind of falling in kind of as that 4th example. We also asked about program importance and what, how important were they? You can see that there were a lot of programs that we listed, and again, on that scale of 1 to 5, 5 being very important, 3 being kind of neutral. So, you see that special events, sports programs, youth programs, and aquatic programs all fell in that 3 to 5 to 3 to 2 range. So, in that neutral to important range. So looking at, how we build on those programs, one of the things we heard from the focus groups was additional programming within the community. And so, we asked about priorities for those survey respondents. What should the priorities of the department be for the future? And so you can see the 25%, their top priority was an aquatic facility. 21%, their top priority was increased access to the river, and then followed by local trail connectivity and additional open space natural areas, and then a regional trail connection. So the trail connectivity is that kind of park to park, neighborhood to park, and then that regional trail connectivity being more on a larger scale. And so from there, as I said, we had Dave and Kaylin came out and walked all of your facilities, looked at all of your amenities, and did an inventory and a level of service analysis. We looked at all your facilities, we mapped all your facilities, and we also looked at some other service providers and those athletic facilities that are provided by the school system. As we looked at those, kind of some of the comments and some of the the observations from the site visits, that you have some great additions and upgrades from the system from when we did your last master plan. So community forest, Tulamore, Crown Point, Sportsman's Park, all new additions. You do celebrate the water, and there are opportunities to increase those views and access. You have limited indoor recreation opportunities. You are a regional resource. Your parks are well maintained, but some need some updates. There's some deferred maintenance issues. Branding was one of those things that we noted, and also the focus group and even the survey noted that there's inconsistency in your signage. Some of your comfort features are not standardized across the system, so they're not as easily maintained. Also, some of your playground structures need to be updated. Your court surfaces are aging, and there are opportunities to increase your ADA access throughout the system. And so one of the things that we did was we GIS mapped all your facilities, updated those that we had mapped previously. We did an inventory and graded all of them. And so we grade on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being that the amenity is not performing the way that it was designed to function. And so may need a major repair, and it may need to be replaced. 2 is that it's functioning the way it was designed, and a 3 is that it's functioning above. So it may be a brand new piece of playground equipment you've installed, a brand new picnic shelter, those things. And so we provide an inventory atlas to the department as a staff document for for their use kind of going forward. We also provide it electronically so that staff can keep it up to date as new amenities and new parks come online. And so as we look at the amenities, one of the things we looked at was accessibility to recreation amenities. And so one of the things we look at is walkable access. So we use a half mile kind of as a walkable access. Typically we use a radius, but we do look at where there are those barriers to access, major roadways, waterways, those things, so that we're not kind of overestimating ability to get to access. So you can see the darker the orange, the more access an individual has within a half mile walk. And so we do the same so those are for outdoor amenities. We did the same for indoor amenities. So looking at those indoor recreation amenities and walkable access to them, you can see, again, using that orange gradient as a close proximity. There is a larger area that is not served because, as we noted, there aren't as many indoor opportunities as there are outdoor opportunities. So we also looked at trails and trailheads, both the larger system trails as well as the regional trail system. And again, you can see kind of within that half mile, there's a lot of the bright orange. So access to trails is very good within the system and within the community. And so, it's was also one of the top priorities for citizens within the survey. So then finally, we looked at playground access, and again, using that same half mile radius. Both using access to school playgrounds as well as to playgrounds within parks. And so some of those key opportunities that we identified as we looked at all of those pieces, again, increasing trail and pathway connectivity, both locally and regionally, expanding your river access, acquiring additional open space in natural areas, building a recreation center, aquatic facility, maintaining what the city currently has, making sure that you're keeping up your level of service and the quality of your assets that you have, assuring accessibility, both ADA accessibility as well as transportation and entry level for first-time users. So one of the things that we heard is a lot of people come to Parks and Recreation or look to Parks and Recreation kind of as that entity to introduce them to some sports and activities that are available within the community. So finding that balance between your natural areas and your developed amenities, creating a downtown community gathering space, looking at your branding, your wayfinding, and your marketing, maintaining and expanding your partnerships. You do a really good job now of partnering on your events and your activities and those things. And so maintaining those partnerships and then expanding as the need arises, providing new amenities, again, looking at those dog parks, splash pads, restrooms and playgrounds, growing your programs, special events, adventure programming, camps, adult social sports were some of those that were specifically called out. Increasing your staffing to continue to provide the current level of service. So as the system continues to grow, as you begin to expand programming, you need to make sure that you're continuing your staffing levels so that you're maintaining that same quality of service. Identifying a dedicated funding source for operations and for growth over time, and then increasing your access to active recreation athletic facilities to support your programs and the demands and your population growth. And so from there, we really began to look at and develop our goals and objectives and our recommendations. And so as we looked at them, kind of our primary focus in our timeframes were on maintaining, sustaining, and improving the existing system, and then also looking at kind of that short term, up to 3 years, midterm, that 4 to 6, and then long-term 7 to 10 years. And so as we looked at these, the first goal was really to improve and expand on your facilities and your amenities. And we had 7 objectives in that. So looking at expanding your greenways, your pathways, and your trail connectivity, continuing to maintain and improve your existing facilities and amenities, expanding your open space and parks, making improvements to and replacing some of your existing facilities and amenities, those that are aging, developing new amenities at existing parks based on your current level of service analysis. So everything doesn't have to be new at a new park. You can look at developing new amenities or developing some infill amenities where there exists opportunities within your existing park system. So continue to improve access to programs and facilities, and then upgrading your convenience and your customer service amenities at your existing facilities. So looking at, again, those your restrooms, your picnic shelters, those conveniences and those customer service amenities. So the second goal was to continue to improve organizational efficiencies. And the 3 objectives there are to continue to enhance and improve your internal and external communication regarding department activities and services. So continuing to increase your social media presence and those pieces, as well as communicating with the other departments that you work with within the city system. Staffing appropriately to meet your current demands. We talked about that earlier. And then building on your existing and looking for opportunities to increase appropriate partnerships, which I touched on earlier as well. So then that third goal is to continue to improve your programs and your service delivery. So exploring opportunities to increase the number of community events based on demand and trends. That was one of the top priorities that came out of the focus groups as far as new programs were concerned. Developing additional recreation opportunities, and then working with other service providers to develop programs and services to meet demands and trends, knowing that the Parks and Recreation Department can't be everything to everybody. So, where are those other service providers that have the skills and the abilities to provide services, maybe in a more efficient way than the city, and working on those partnerships. And then the final goal was to increase your financial opportunities. So reviewing your existing fees and look at the restructure to possibly meet your current and future funding realities. So look at your cost recovery, look at your programs and services. Exploring additional funding options, and we discussed several of those in the master plan. Exploring opportunities to increase sponsorships, and then exploring developing and implementing a resource allocation and cost recovery philosophy and pricing policy. So having a set formal policy of how you develop your fees and how you look at cost recovery through the long term is a good practice. And so I know you all have been given a copy of the draft master plan itself. I think I guess the next steps are for you to adopt it or approve it, and then we would make a presentation to City Council. So I'm available for any questions that you may have at this point.
Anyone? We've seen a lot of it, so thanks for your work on this, Art.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. I hope that maybe within the next month, since you guys have returned to some in-person meetings, that I might slip out of Virginia and come to Idaho to make the presentation to City Council.
So, Brian, anything to add, Brian?
No, just kind of next steps. Should you act to recommend the approval of this to City Council, we do a quick staff update at the next City Council meeting, first week of August, just making them aware that this document is available on the city's website for review and public comment. And then at the following meeting at the third week of August, that's when we bring it forward as as an actual old business item for city council to consider.
I don't know if anyone's prepared to move forward with the motion. I'll kick it off. I don't usually let other people, but I would move to approve the Parks and Rec master plan as presented tonight, forward to city council.
Can he, as the president, make the motion?
Actually, technically, probably not, because you're the chair.
Okay.
But you could ask somebody to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
That's why I usually sit back and not do it.
I know.
so.
I was thinking, well, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion to accept the master plan as presented.
I'll second.
And you can break a tie, though.
There we go.
Hale,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Duzick,
Aye.
Cornwell,
Aye.
Sybil Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you. I will mention, we are working still with Art to go through and update a couple of things for ADA, some alt tags for images and such for those with vision impairments, so that those are accommodated on our digital platform as well. So other than that, a couple minor typos if we catch them as we're working through that. Otherwise, it'll be presented to council in the format that you just approved. So I thank you. Thank you for working with us and staying diligent in this process. I know it's a long document, and we've all read it a number of times at this point, so very much appreciate the efforts put into the action done tonight. So thank you.
I would add to that, when it goes to council, if there was a major change in it, it would be staff's recommendation that it come back to you guys for that review and look at the change, so. Not that oh, he's gone already. I was going to say, not that I anticipate that, Art.
I don't believe there's any citizen issues. They would have had to have been submitted by email no later than 4 p.m. today, and I don't see anyone in the audience. Doesn't look like any new business for tonight. So we do have some administrative and staff reports. First is a COVID-19 update.
Wasn't sure where that was going to go, but as you can see, coming in, we all have our masks. We have continued to adapt to the changes as they go in. COVID has been increasing within our county and within the health district and the Spokane region. That has caused, the latest, of course, everybody's aware of the requirement for masks to be worn when social distancing isn't possible. It's had an impact on our programs, on some of our rentals, where the city's taking the approach of educating and pushing some of that forward. As you mentioned, with the concert and the movies coming up, we actually have sanitizing units out there so people can get their sanitizer and keep clean. We're having a mask in and out. The food that's been given out is all prepackaged, so it's all sealed. So we're making those changes, but within the programs itself, we're having to modify. And there's a few programs we haven't been able to modify, and we've had to cancel and do refunds. For some, we're in the middle of those programs. We're trying some things to make that social distancing happen. If it's not possible, then masks are being required. For some, especially with this heat, that's a challenge. We've been working with Panhandle Health. There's areas where we're able to break groups off, and so we're balancing heat exhaustion, the pandemic, a little bit of everything. There's operational changes. Our staff is wearing these when they cannot socially distance, so you will see somebody on a mower, they're not wearing it. If they stop the mower and they go interact with another staff member, they're supposed to mask up, or if the public comes to talk to them. So we're working on that. We're making adjustments. We'll continue to make adjustments. That goes the same with some of our rentals and other things. Some of them are very good. Live After 5, if you haven't been there, they're following it to a T. They're having areas marked out and their numbers have been way down. So once again, the social distancing, for those who are comfortable with it, is there. Not everybody is comfortable with it. We've been issuing a lot of refunds for those who do not want to wear a mask for the programs. We recognize that, so. I'm sure that every time we come to you guys, there will be some little change and twist, but you know, we're moving forward. We celebrate every little event we do as a success. It's funny, you know, a year ago, oh God, we gotta have more people, have more people. And now it's okay, we gotta get just the right number of people. So how we view things has changed. And we're learning some new things that work, and we're learning some things that don't work. So it's all good.
Anyone have any questions for Dave on staffing or COVID impacts or anything? Okay, now we have discussion. We don't typically have a meeting in August. We usually have August and December off. So we need to make a decision whether to have a meeting or not, or August. Do we have any topics to?
We pushed everything forward just so that would clear the docket for you guys for August.
So would we have a workshop in September or an actual meeting in September?
That's a good question. We actually, on our schedule, it would be an actual meeting. This was scheduled to be a workshop, but because of the things that we had going on, we moved it into a meeting. So, and we would really look at what's up there. I mean, whether we go with a meeting, workshop, we can flip-flop that back and forth. But
Okay.
now, if for some reason something came up, we can in August, we could also call a special workshop. Not that I'm trying to sway you.
So does that need a motion?
Yes, please.
I mean, I'm okay with no meeting if we don't have anything to talk about, so.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too,
Yeah.
for August.
We can do consensus too, actually. That's what we've done in the past, but we put that action item there just in case you wish to vote.
How's everyone else feeling?
Yeah, I'm good.
No.
August. No meeting August.
Okay?
Okay.
Consensus would work.
Okay, so unless something comes up, we'll see everyone September, Tuesday in September. We do have commission comments if anyone wants to add, but I wanted to mention, we have one commissioner just absent tonight, but we do have one open seat still available as of today. It's a 7-member commission, so if you're interested, please contact the city clerk for an application, and we'd be happy to have some more public participation. Anyone else have anything for the good of the order?
The only thing I would add tonight is that if you hadn't heard, that Ironman is canceled this year for 2020. And next year, it will be in June, and it will be the full distance Ironman. And while it doesn't affect Post Falls quite like it affects other communities in North Idaho, it does have some relevance to us as well.
Okay, no other comments. We will adjourn at 7:18.